The BOOcast synth of the month is the Arturia Minibrute. It's 2012, and after years of producing soft synths, Arturia surprised the universe by announcing the Minibrute. The Minibrute was surprising because not only was it a piece of genuine hardware from what had seemed to be a software company, controllers aside, but it was the first genuinely affordable, genuinely VCO synth in several years. You could argue that it kicked off the analog synth resurgence of the last decade. But did we get one? Of course we bloody did. But you know how it is. Getting a new synth is very much like getting a sandwich toaster. There's the initial honeymoon period where you have toasted sandwiches every day. You make inspired sandwich decisions like, what happens if I combine jam and cheese? And would mushroom and acorn go together well? And it's all going great until one day you tidy up and the sandwich toaster gets put to the top of some cupboards out of reach, collecting kitchen fudge, and you all but forget you have one. The same thing can happen to a synth, and it's often just a question of studio geography. Where you put the synth, whether it's within easy reach or not, will determine whether you play it or not. That's what happened to my Minibrute. And so, today, I'm bringing it out of the darkness. But to my horror, it's as fudgy as an old sandwich toaster. The Arturia Minibrute. And oh my goodness, when I got it out of the attic today, it really was covered in fudge. I don't know what plastic Arturia made this synthesizer out of, but every single one of these knobs and these side panels and these sliders were exuding a kind of gluey, cheesy fudge, which I tried everything. You wash it, you scrape, ultimately you have to just scrape the thing. So I am now probably going to try and find some new knobs for it, because honestly, what is going on? What is happening to this plastic? Anyway, the Arturia Minibrute. So we were so pleased when this came out, and it looks a lot like the Roland SH1, and we were really excited because I thought, great, fantastic, I can bring something out that isn't kind of irreplaceable. It's got some similarities to the SH1 in that it's black and white and it's got sliders, but it doesn't sound like it at all. It's a single oscillator synth with a sub-oscillator. I say single oscillator synth, but what a single oscillator it is. We'll come to that in a second. It's got two envelopes, one for your filter and one for your amp. It's got a whole bunch of controls over the top. It's got a Steiner Parker filter, which I think is pretty unique to Arturia. Originally, it was the Steiner Parker Synthicon that used the Steiner Parker filter, and it's got a very, very particular sound. We've got the brute factor. Yeah, it's kind of a feedback knob. And down here, there's a digital section. There are two LFOs, effectively. There's one here, and there's a vibrato. The vibrato one, as its name suggests, can only be used on the pitch. And there is an arpeggiator, and it's got aftertouch. It's a lot of synth, isn't it? So let's start by listening to a saw. Let's bring it up to about 75%. I don't have an oscilloscope, but that sounds a bit... It's all right. It sounds perhaps a little bit less sharp than I'd normally like. But the saw has a trick up its sleeve, so we've got the ultra saw amount. What's ultra saw? Well, let's listen. So it's bringing in multiples of itself, I think at different pitches. And it's given the effect that you've got more than one oscillator, or a bit of phasing going on. You can change the rate here. Sounds great. I'm going to put some effects on that. That sounds pretty amazing. Just one saw, you can change the rate. Definitely sounds like detuning. How can you have detuning on a one oscillator synth? This is how. Bring in the sub oscillator as well. Okay, so let's go to the sub. So the sub, you can have a square or a sine, 1 octave or 2 octaves down. Let's bring that up. The next waveform we get out of this oscillator is the square wave. Let's bring that up. And we've also got pulse width manual on the top there, so and we've got pulse width modulation connected to the LFO, controlled by this knob, pulse width modulation and metallizer. Let's bring it up full. Speed it up. The interesting thing for me here is that this ultra saw has a separate speed to the pulse width modulation, so we can have two. That's a bit pulse widthy, isn't it? I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. It's modulated, so we can have the super saw doing one speed. Goes pretty fast as well. And pulse width modulation doing another speed. Have them together. So we've got two modulation sources going to these two different waveforms, which is pretty cool. The next waveform we have is a triangle. So we've got, but again, we've got a way of modulating the triangle, and this is through the metallizer, it's called. So there we go, that is pretty intense. I guess it's wave folding. Let's change the waveform to sample and hold here. Ooh. So yeah, doesn't it sound good? Finally, we have some noise. And we have audio in. Now, the mixer is interesting because it seems to overdrive the amp and the filter as you go past a certain point. I'll just bring in the saw. And well, let's turn that back to... It's interesting, they kind of fight with each other and almost seem to cancel each other out a little bit. You hear that? There's a drop. Almost as if these two waves are out of phase with each other. But let's turn off all the modulation on there. Something interesting is going on. You hear that? It's kind of... Yeah, weird. But, I mean, this is one of the reasons I think I sort of initially went, oh, I don't like what it's doing there. But actually, it's not bad, is it? It's kind of interesting. If you push everything up to full, I'll turn that down. Pretty huge sounding, isn't it? So that's the oscillator and the mixer, and I'm sure you'll agree, that's a pretty impressive oscillator all by itself. And we haven't even got to the Steiner Parker filter yet. So we've got, let's just use the saw, resonance down to 0, envelope amount down to 0, keyboard tracking down to 0. Let's turn off the ultra saw. So this is a 12 dB filter. Wow, listen to that. Let's bring this back down to about 50%. There's a lot of burning going on there. I think down at 25% it's starting to sound like ordinary filtering, but even above there, to my ears, mind you, my headphones may be broken, I can't tell. We'll see what it sounds like in the mix, but it's quite a dirty, burny, very characterful filter. And let's bring the resonance up. Let's go 12 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Ooh, hear that low. And this is very characterful. If you ever go on YouTube, or if you're lucky enough to own a Synthicon, I think it's very reminiscent of a Synthicon, this sound. Oh. We've also got bandpass. Really good. High pass. See if we can do that. Boosting the low frequencies thing. Whoa, check it out. What the hell is going on? Ooh, bring that back up. Let's see if it'll do it again. Yep, it's doing it again. There's no modulation here, that's just the resonance fighting. There we go, and a notch filter. Obviously we can control the filter from the envelope. The envelope has fast and slow speeds, so slow speed does this. Pretty slow and fast. Does that. So the resonance on this filter is pretty fierce, isn't it? Let's bring it up. So the keyboard tracking goes from 0 to 200%. So let's see if we can get it in tune. I bet we can't. Let's try. Okay, I've been trying and it's not possible. I mean, not to me anyway. But that's fine. So let's mix the... put the resonance up full, you don't lose any low frequencies. Because this is a 12 dB filter, and it's always just on the verge of being a bit unstable. Dare I say it, even a little bit malevolent-y. What is it? An old quality to it. It feels old. I like it. We haven't even got to the knob which gives the Minibrute its name, the brute factor knob. So if you see the master volume, the brute factor and the cutoff are all outlined in white, this is to indicate that they affect each other. Let's bring up the brute factor. Turn down the resonance. Put the volume there. Okay. Interesting. The brute factor is basically a feedback knob. Like when you plug the headphone jack into the external in on a Mini Moog. It seems to round off some of the bite of the filter, but it adds a lot of... There's a big farty grunt there, isn't that nice? Let's bring up the resonance now. Ah, there we go. So the resonance actually should have a white outline as well, because that really does its thing, doesn't it? So you hear sort of with this sound without any brute factor. Bring it in. Sort of adds more harmonics, lower harmonics, so that it gradually descends into... So it sounds like the brute factor is working with the master volume, and it's kind of... Do you hear the way the filter seems to be opening as the decay dies away here? Hey, the brute factor is good for big old drums. So the LFO is pretty good. So as we've already seen, it controls the metalizer and the pulse width modulation. Goes pretty fast. There is a mod online where if you don't mind opening things up and sticking different components in, you can increase the speed of the LFO, but it's pretty quick. Could be faster, I suppose. Yeah, so in the LFO we got the pulse width modulation and metalizer. We got positive and negative on that. We've got pitch, positive and negative. We got filter, and we got a bunch of waveforms. So we got sine, triangle, saw, square, it's bipolar, so once again tuning's going to be a tricky one there. You'll probably be able to do it. We've got a sample and hold. Yep. And we've also got sample and hold with a bit of slew in there. For that classic old-fashioned thingy. The clock for the LFO can be tied to the arpeggiator. Come to that in a second. We've also got the vibrato here. Now, vibrato only works with the modulation wheel. And it goes pretty fast as well. And we've got unipolar square up and unipolar square down. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to go much further than that. Along here, we've got a touch of glide, which is only on or off. Now, there were problems with the keyboards. I seem to remember when they initially came out where they were malfunctioning or whatever. Mine seems to still be working. However, it has gone yellow. More plastic weirdness going on here. Why do these things go yellow? I mean, I know why they go yellow. I've looked it up online. There we go. I promise. I don't smoke, okay? So we've got some really great stuff here, but it sort of drifted its way to the back of the list of synths I wanted to use, even though it has a very particular quality. Now, I said this goes with the clock. You can get... Something I've been meaning to do with the Minibrute for a long time is that there is a mod you can do online at this website, and it's as simple as plugging your Minibrute into the computer, go to this website, download the librarian it's got, into that librarian, put this piece of code, and it turns your arpeggiator into a 64-step sequencer. Even give you this to print off. You can stick it on top. In fact, let's do that now. So to record, now you can see what you do. You record by doing this. It's moving around, never mind. So you get to play your sequence forwards. In reverse, and there it goes, forwards and backwards, and then it adds an extra octave up note every so often, octave down, and then random, and that's, yes, put that into there is the Arturia Minibrute back in my life where it belongs. I'm going to replace all these knobs so they don't get cheesy again, I think, and I might replace the end cheeks as well because they get cheesy too. But it's wonderful to have it back again. Yeah, thanks for watching.